Hey everybody, how's it going? Brbteabreak here today with my guide for an elemental Blade Vortex Inquisitor. This is probably one of the best characters you can play in the game at the start of the league, if you're a new player, and if you really want to just push and do all the content. So why do I say this? The reason is because Blade Vortex at a low level is very strong. I'm not talking about leveling, I'm talking about getting in those early level maps. It has very good boss kill potential, so you can obviously clear the bosses out in terms of just normal maps, but if you want to do stuff like Shaper, Guardians, you can just really scale the ability with a bit of currency investment and you can have a really good time. At the same time also though, it has very strong speed clear, so a lot of builds are either, all about the speed clear or all about the boss killing. This build has both. It's very cheap, as I said. And the thing is also that it's not super meta right now. It's good for things like Uber Lab at the start of the league and whatnot, but people don't really push Blade Vortex to a higher level. So what that means is a lot of the stuff is very cheap. You can pick up like 21 level Blade Vortex gems, for example, for like 3 chaos, 4 chaos. So yeah, if you really want to play a character which is like very strong, but isn't like SS+++ tier, Blade Vortex is a character for you. At the same time, it's very simple, so if you're somebody new, it's kind of like Righteous Fire, which is a big old circle around you, and you just run through the maps. There's a little bit of like a charge up time, you have to like charge up your ability to start running, but overall it's very good. I think of it as a lawnmower, you sit there, you charge up a little bit, and then you just mow down the grass. In this case though, you mow down zombies, and it's very strong. The only problem with the build I could say overall is that Reflect is sometimes a problem, because how Blade Vortex works is that it spins around you, sure, but it does hit, so it hits there every like half a second, and if you have very high gear, even at like 10,000 HP, you can one-shot yourself on an Elemental Reflect mob, which kinda sucks. There's no real way around it besides playing Elementalist, and in that case you're gonna just have a really slow speed clear, and it's really rough. But yeah, we're going to go through all the abilities and just how it works out. I'm going to go through the gems and the gear itself. So all in order, this build is very strong. It can do any content in the game very early on. Good for boss killing. So if you want to do things like Guardians or Shaper very early. At the same time, Uber Lab is very easy to do also, especially if you do something that's not Val Pact based. So first, let's just go through all the gear and the gems themselves. So firstly, we have the gems Blade Vortex, Increased Area of Effect, Spell Echo, Elemental Focus, Physical Lightning, and Control Destruction. On a 5 link, I would drop Control Destruction, but depends on what setup you have, for example. So you put that in the Path of Building, play around with that a little bit. Also for bosses, I sub out Ink AoE for Conk, and it's very powerful. Obviously, massive damage increase when you're fighting bosses, as you can see here. Tooltip DPS isn't the best to look at for Blade Vortex because of how it works, but you can see there it's gone up by like 30%. It's on a Carcass Jack. In my opinion, the best chest piece for this build gives you increased area of effect, so you get a faster clear, and AoE damage, or increased area of damage, so that's really good. Max life, resistances, that's nice also. Really good chest piece. It comes out being actually better to use Incandescent Heart if you just want straight up Path of Building damage. But things like lower AoE, for example, I'm not a big fan of. And the light radius based on energy shield is really annoying, because especially as we have such a low energy shield, it's hard to see what we're doing sometimes. Then we have a Doriani's over here, very solid weapon, easy to buy, also very cheap, especially when it's not rolled that well. You can get like a better crafted weapon though, but it's going to cost you a couple of exalts, so maybe not straight away, but it's a good introductory weapon. That's linked up with Flame Dash, Summon Lightning Golem, and faster casting support. We're using Flame Dash just to get over walls where we can't shield charge. If you can't afford a Doriani's very early on, you can just buy a rare randomly with like crit or spell damage, just as good. Or if you want to use uniques because you're a bit lazy like me, Heartbreaker over here, it's very good. It costs like 1 alchemy, it's level 50, so you can use it while leveling a little bit also. I was using this during my my Firestorm leveling. Gives you crit chance, gives you spell damage, a good spell damage roll. And the cull's really nice also. It's a very easy weapon to use. It's also a dagger. It has pretty high attack speed, so good for shield charging also. The helmet over here, it's pretty bad to be honest, but you just want max life and resistances where possible. I picked this helmet though for the enchant increased damage of Blade Vortex. It's not necessary, it's not that big of an increase, it's only like 10% or something, or 8%, but it's good nonetheless. There's one that gives you increased area of effect, which doesn't actually do anything according to Path of Building because I have so much AoE already, it doesn't scale that well because it's diminishing returns. There's also increased duration, which I was considering actually, because that's really good for clearing, but for bosses and whatnot, the damage obviously is much better. That's linked up with increased duration, casting damage taken, Immortal Call, and Tempest Shield. Some people don't like Tempest Shield for whatever reason. I like the block, and it looks really cool. If I can show the skill off, it just looks awesome. Like, just in general, where is it? It looks awesome, doesn't it? Like, anyway, if you don't want Tempest Shield, you can use something like Molten Shell for more armor, but our armor's so low anyway, adding a bit more is like, it's nice because obviously it scales in that way, but the armor value is so low, the big hits that are killing you anyway, the armor doesn't do anything because of how armor scales in this game. So yeah, I rather block it, to be honest. Then we also have a Biscos, which isn't actually equipped for some reason. We have a Biscos over here. Biscos is obviously, you know, great magic, fine. We don't need any more damage, to be honest. So we use that. I was using this for a very, very long time, actually. Until level, like, 93, I think. I didn't buy Biscos. So, yeah, I was using this. You just want spell damage, crit multiplier, crit chance, and max life. You probably do want agility in some way, or dexterity, sorry, on your amulet in some way or the other, in terms of, like, an Onyx amulet, or a Negate amulet, or something like that. Because, yeah, you have dex problems really badly as this build. But, yeah, really solid amulet overall. Shield over here. What you want to do with the shields, this is very expensive, this shield here, if you were to buy it now. But, for example, what you want to do is just find one with spell damage, crit chance, and then you craft a life. Because, buying a shield of spell damage, crit, and life, even if it was like, say, 60 spell power, 60 crit, 60 life, is like, you know, hundreds of chaos. This shield here cost me 50 chaos on like the 3rd day of the league. It was just spell damage, crit chance, and a lightning res. I didn't even care about the other stuff. I just want the damage, and I crafted the life myself. If I was to do it again though, I would actually get lower crit chance or lower spell damage, whatever, and actually get more life, because the build has kind of low HP, to be honest, only 6.7k, but it is obviously isn't like optimized to the extreme. We have a ring here. Pretty good amount of life. We want damage. Opal would be better if you can afford it. Opal, that's the one? No, what's the one? I forgot the name. What was that? The one that gives you elemental damage. I forgot the name. Sorry, all of a sudden. But that would be better. But this is crit chance instead. It's okay. Max life, resistances again. Really good stuff right there. I've also crafted crit chance here because there's an open suffix, and I don't need the resistances right now, or I actually do now because I put headhunters on. But originally I didn't. As you can see, it's pretty bad. I'm obviously capped, but I can't do early weakness maps, even though I have curse thing. Anyway, we have over here another ring, max life again, lots of resistances, very simple. As I say, we need dex where possible, so dex on the ring here is very nice. Hrim Sorrow, this is like a must-have for the build. It's the cheapest item here anyway, so I don't really worry too much about it. You want to get one with max spell damage possible and max cold resist, because it's really cheap. This one here cost me 3 chaos, like day 3 or day 5 or something like that. So yeah, really, really easy to get to, very common. But yeah, the spell damage roll and the cold damage roll is the important one there. Then we have on this we have also shield charge, fortify, faster attacks, culling. You don't need culling strike. It's only good if you have quality on it, and that gives you 10% attack speed, which isn't that big of a deal. But yeah, shield charge is really good. It's our movement skill, because normally we run pretty slow, to be honest, but shield charge is nice. And then we hit the silver flask and we just start flying around, so that's all good. For a belt, I'm using Headhunters here, which probably isn't viable for everybody. Besides this, though, you can just use a normal belt. I was using this for ages to level, like, I only got Headhunters like 1 level ago, so I was using this belt for a long time. Again, max health, really, that's all you want, and a bunch of resistances when possible. I got Chaos Resist on my belt because you have lots of negative Chaos Resist, and it kind of sucks sometimes. And I was already resistance capped, so yeah, it doesn't really matter what you get here, though. And boots, movement speed, obviously, max life, resistances. It's very simple. Pretty much, if you can get damage on it, you get damage on it. If you can't, life and resistances. Now, the rings are the same, I guess. You can get 50-50 on that. Flask over here, we have just a chill flask, which is instant. We have curse immune, because you can curse immune now map things. So, like, elemental weakness on the map, you can now use curse immune flasks, which is really good. We also have silver flask here. I found it better than Quicksilver because the attack speed, but also the cast speed's really nice too when you're doing things like boss fights and whatnot. Then we have an Aziri's Promise, really good flask. This thing, you can get like a badly rolled one for like 1 chaos, but I would recommend buying a really good world one because this thing's like 30% increased damage, to be honest, and you want the elemental roll and the physical roll to be maxed out because the phys roll does count towards your chaos damage even though you're not doing any chaos damage, which is really good. And then we have a Stibnite Flask over here, remove bleed. I originally was using in this spot a Roomies because I was trying to do bosses and whatnot, and you know, random hits would take you down. Block's really good for that. But eventually I got to the point where only thing that would kill me was myself. So getting bleed there was nice. I originally also had I had bleeds on this, but I'm using Curse Immune on some fights. But now doing this setup here, I always have Curse Immune, I always have Bleed Immune, and I can freeze when I need to. And over here we have Varlone Trap for bosses. We also have Blasphemy with Warlord's Mark. This is really your only way you can actually fight bosses and like monsters for a long period of time. Gives you tons of leech, gives you tons of mana regeneration, because otherwise you can't actually sustain your Blade Vortex. Really good. And Endurance Charges makes you tankier, and Hatred, which is a must-have aura, makes you very, very, very strong. Now look at the path of building here. There's a lot of traveling going on, so you will have periods of time where you're very, very weak, which is kind of worrying to be honest, but overall it's pretty strong. You can see here the damage is 820,000. This is with a Diamond Flask, which is what I sub in during bosses. And it's pretty good. This also includes power charges, as you can see here, and yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, this is the wrong one. I lied. 750k. You can use another belt, which I should talk about. The other belt that's really good is Belt of the Deceiver here. Really nice set of headhunters, or instead of, you know, unique belt. The thing is here, even though the life roll isn't that massive, the reduced damage from crits is really big, because things that generally kill you besides reflect damage and whatnot is crits, and taking less damage from crits is really, really good. And the intimidation means you do more damage too. Has all res, very cheap belt, it's like 1 chaos, very, very good starting item right there. Anyway, back to the build, sorry. So firstly, you start out here. You just pick up everything in this area over here. Really good stuff. This is for leveling especially also. Pick all this up. Area damage, stuff like that. Move over here. I picked up the regeneration early because I was leveling as Firestorm, and it's really hard, and I'd rather not have like spare mana pots. Also Elemental Conflux, Elemental Overload even, while leveling is really good. Go through here. We want the crit where possible. Life, Jewel Sockets. If it can be 2 or 3, I'd pick them up. So if I was to get to max level, for example, I'd pick up the Jewel Socket over here, because it gives you dex on the way. Be crit where possible, life, very simple. I wouldn't go Blade Vortex, or I didn't personally, until level 60. And that's when I moved over here, and I picked up the nodes over here, which gives you fizz damage. I would actually try and rush to an extent Volpact. Early on, I was getting a lot of, like, when I tried to do harder maps, it was a lot of hit and run tactics early on without Volpact, because how regeneration works in the game. I'd pick it up. It's also really good because you get dex on the way, and a Jewel Sockets right next to it too. Overall, you can't change this up too much unless you want to go for non-crit build. If you're going non-crit, for example, you drop the life over here, you drop the crit over here, you'd actually path through here, because that way you can pick up the Jewel Socket over here, and you just pick up more spell damage. You don't even need to pick up more spell damage, to be honest. You pick up more life. You can't get more life. I'm only at 211 here, and that's with 4 jewels. So that's like 190, which is pretty low in my opinion. It's kind of like, you know, a bit sad in that regard, but there's not too much more life you can pick up. There's life over here, which is probably would be the wheel I would go for, because it gives you strength and chaos resist, which is obviously really nice for just not getting killed by chaos damage. There's life over here also, but it's very, very weak, because it's ES also, which kind of sucks. And besides that, there isn't too many options, so you are limited in life pool, to be honest, overall. But it's not too bad. You won't get one-shot by most things unless you're doing like a double damage boss or something like that. Now, things that can kill you, as I said, is Reflect and yourself, really. So, what I would pick, actually, if I was going for 100, I would pick up this node over here, Elemental Damage Reduction, because we're all LE damage, and only reason I've died from level 90 to 95 is just Reflect. And I'm not talking like, you know, small hits, I'm talking like 100 to 0 instantly. And you can't react. Sometimes you take small hits, you can spam your instant life pot, but yeah. If I was going for max level, I'd pick up something like this. Really, really nice. I should also say, sorry, I'd go down here first with Blade Vortex, because you need these increased duration nodes. Otherwise, Blade Vortex duration is obviously very short. It's like 45% increased duration with these 3 nodes alone. Very good. And on the way down here, you actually pick up the Shaper here, which is good, regen and life and mana, and a massive life wheel. You have to pick up this life wheel. With that, let's say you just take all this off, you just have no HP. You lose 1,000 plus HP. So these nodes are really good. And you also get some fizz damage over here also. and yeah, really solid stuff. But yeah, you can't change too much overall. You can do this as like a any other class really. To be honest, the thing about Inquisitor that's nice is that you get you want Instruments of Virtue over here, and you want Inevitable Judgment. So Instruments of Virtue is good because you're shield charging and Blade Vortex is always up. So as you're running around, you're doing more damage, and because you're casting, you're moving faster also. All really nice there. More crits is kind of why I recommend a crit build, to be honest, anyway, because you got so much crit going on in the Inquisitor tree. And then over here, crit strikes ignore enemy resistances. So you see here, if we fight a boss, the damage doesn't drop off too much, which is really crazy because the thing is we crit so much. As you can see here, crit chance is 43%. When we use Diamond Flasks, it's about 67, and that means pretty much half the time the Shaper has 0 resistances, which is really good. And the thing is also, the non-crit strikes still penetrate, so if you're fighting random white mobs and you don't crit, you're actually doing extra damage anyway, because they're going to go minus resistances, very good. And last but not least, Augury of Penitence, whatever this is, really good. It's a more multiplier in a way, same as the Belt of Deceiver, because you're debuffing the enemies, and normally they take, 0% increased damage. If you make them take 16% more increased damage, or increased damage, I should say, you're taking more damage because they're multiplying off a 0, or 1, actually, I should say. So it's really, really good in that regard. Really nice. And less damage taken also. I'm not too sure how both of this even work together, but either way, this is what you're going to go for here with Inquisitor. But that's the build, guys. Thanks for watching. I don't think it's too much more I can change with this build, to be honest. I have as much life as I can possibly get, besides the shield, which is missing like 40. Everything else has max life, like tier 1 life where possible. And yeah, overall, very strong build, guys. I recommend you check it out. I'm going to have some more builds very soon, guys. PoE is a game I play a lot of, and I probably should talk more about it. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.